This tutorial is for students in the graphic design program. A basic knowledge of Adobe Illustrator is recommended. Upon completion of this tutorial, the learner should be able to identify instances where a compound path is needed and demonstrate how to create a compound path using Adobe Illustrator. A compound path is a group of objects that respond to effects and functions non-destructively. This will become more clear as we move through examples of compound paths in use. A compound path is needed when you'd like to punch out or remove part of an object to create an area of transparency. This donut appears to have a hole in it, but does it? The donut hole is actually a white circle overlapping the gradient donut shape. To create a hole in the donut, select both circles, then go to the Object menu, Compound Path, Make, or Command or Control 8 on your keyboard. The hole has been punched into the donut shape, and the light blue background is now visible through the hole. This is a drawing of a piece of Swiss cheese. Select the white circles and the yellow cheese square. Then go to the Object menu, Compound Path, Make, to create holes in the cheese. Notice that when you add a stroke to the cheese shape, it is also applied to the holes in the cheese because Illustrator sees this as one object. Additional objects can be added to this compound path. So I'll select this circle and the compound path and go again to Object, Compound Path, Make to add another hole in the cheese. Use the Direct Selection tool to adjust these shapes non-destructively. You can always release a compound path by going to Object, Compound Path, Release, and you get all of the shapes that made up the compound path back. Take a look at these vector leaf shapes. When a gradient is applied, each leaf contains the gradient. When we group the objects, the gradient remains the same. When we use the Pathfinder to unite the objects, the gradient still remains the same. When we create a compound path, Illustrator sees them as one object and applies the gradient across all of the leaves. The final example of compound paths in use is with text. When you want to apply a gradient to text, the type must first be converted to outlines. Do this by selecting the type, then go to the Type menu and select Create Outlines. This converts the type into shapes, which means it is no longer editable as text. When a gradient fill is selected, Illustrator applies the gradient to each letter shape. Select all of the letter shapes and create a compound path to apply the gradient fill across all of the letters. Adjust the gradient settings to create different effects. In summary, a compound path should be used when you want to punch out or remove part of an object to create an area of transparency, or when you want to apply a gradient across a group of objects, or when you want to apply a gradient across text. You should now be able to identify instances where a compound path is needed and demonstrate how to create a compound path using Adobe Illustrator.